Hi, this is John Lovett at Two Script Guys. We're going to continue our discussion of unknown, little known, or forgotten science fiction authors. But this week we're going to concentrate on a group that was formed in New York City called the Futurians that produced some of the most well-known science fiction authors and editors. The Futurians, which was founded in 1937 and existed till 1945, were a group of science fiction fans, many of whom became editors and writers. The Futurians were based in New York City and were a major force in the development of science fiction writing and science fiction fandom. As described in Isaac Asimov's 1979 autobiography, In Memory Yet Green, the Futurians spun off from the Greater New York Science Fiction Club, headed by Sam Moskowitz, later an influential science fiction editor and historian, over ideological differences, mostly because Sam Moskowitz was anti-communist and most of the members of the Futurians were communists. Daniel Wollheim broke off from the Greater New York group and founded the Futurians in September 1938. The fans following Moskowitz reorganized into the Queen's Science Fiction Club. Frederick Pohl said that the origin of the Futurians lay with the Science Fiction League founded by Hugo Gernsback in 1934. The local New York City chapter of which was called the Brooklyn Science Fiction League, headed by G.G. Clark. There were several club names during that period before finally settling on the Futurians. In 1935, there was the East New York Science Fiction League, later the Independent League of Science Fiction, and in 1936 became the International Cosmos Science Club. Most of the group's members also had professional ambitions within science fiction and related fields, and collectively were very effective at achieving this goal, as the roster of members suggests. At one point in the earliest 1940s, approximately half of all pulp, science fiction, and fantasy magazines in the United States were being edited or written by, or edited and written by, former members of the Futurians. Frederick Pohl at the popular publications offshoot Fictioneers, which wrote astounding stories and super science stories. Robert Lowndes at Columbia Publications, most notably with Science Fiction and Future, were two of the people that became editors. Donald Wollheim at the very marginal Alping Publications with the short-lived micro-budgeted cosmic stories and stirring science stories. And then they had Leslie Perry Baumgart, also worked on romance fiction titles for Alping. Many of these projects had small editorial budgets and relied in part on and occasionally entirely on contributions from fellow Futurians for their contents. At the time the Futurians were formed, Donald Wollheim was strongly attracted by communism and believed that the followers of science fiction should actively work for the realization of the scientific world state as the only genuine justification for their activities in existence. None of that continued after the Soviet-German Pact of 1940. But the Futurians continued as under various guises until 1945. But again, a lot of the people that were part of the original group, they saw to it that the Futurians kind of kept on going. And as Isaac Asimov would later write in Memory Yet Green, the Futurian, the club, would go through many naming conventions. The Futurians, though, more so as an entity, became a genesis, a beginning for a lot of these editors and writers that were well known. And it includes people like Cyril Kornbluth, who I've done a short essay on. I want to talk to you a little bit about these various science fiction clubs that existed. Harlan Ellison writes about being a member of a club in Cincinnati. There were various other science fiction clubs that were formed all over the United States. Most of them didn't survive really past World War II. Maybe they did, but like a lot of these organizations, they kind of petered out by the 1960s. Then there were various groups that kind of formed along the same lines, one of which became the Society of Creative Anachronism. But a lot of these organizations proved to be the grounding for a lot of these people who later became editors and writers. So the Futurians were just one of these examples of these clubs and organizations that really started in the 1930s for various reasons, and then peter out by the early 1950s. Thank you for listening, and have a great time.